Today, I want to introduce how we use Textual Communities, the software tool we've developed over the last years, to edit a text in many witnesses. First question, what are we looking at here? We're looking at texts like the Greek New Testament in 5,000 manuscripts, Dante's Commedia in 800, or the 88 of Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Making sense of the text from all these documents is a huge task. And one might ask, why should we bother? Well, we should bother because the reason we have so many texts of these works is because lots of people thought that text really important and so copied and recopied and reprinted it. And maybe we still think it's important. It's worth the effort. And it is a huge effort because traditions create huge problems. How do we make sense of all this information? Where is the text in all these documents? And indeed, this appears to be a job made for the computer. We need to retrieve, to store, to collect, to analyze, to reorganize enormous amounts of information. That's what computers can do for us. So, round about some 35 years ago, I began using computers to tackle this problem. In the years since, I and other people with me have developed what we call the Canterbury Tales project model for editing texts in many witnesses. First, we collect copies of every page of every witness, 29,000 of the Canterbury Tales. We transcribe every page in a computer-readable form. We compare all the transcripts using a computer-assisted collation tool to create a record of all the differences and agreements among the witnesses. Then we explore that record to understand how the witnesses relate to each other, and we create a critical text using that understanding, and finally we publish everything. Seven different stages. From about 2010 on, I have been working with other people to create an environment which allows us to do this work as efficiently as we can imagine. This is the Textual Communities tool, and let's look at this now. So here is the opening screen of the Textual Communities system. Our first task is to log into this system. So I can log in through Facebook. And once I am logged in, I can then choose among my various communities, each community representing a particular text. Our community is the Canterbury Tales Project Phase 2, and so I select that, and here we are, tales in it, and which are the basic material of our edition. So I can go to one of those, for example, here the Ellesmere manuscript in San Marino, California, and I can choose the very first page, folio 1R of that manuscript. And on the right-hand side, this is all happening in real time, an image of the manuscript appears, served from the Huntington Library server in California in IIIF form, which allows me to zoom in on the image and to move about it. And below that, I have a transcription of that page made by a sequence of people, all of whom are listed in here. And those of you who are familiar with the Text Encoding Initiative will recognize the Text Encoding Initiative brand of XML being used here to record information, page by page, line by line, word by word, about this manuscript. So once we have made the transcriptions, the next task is to compare the transcriptions. So now I can move to the collation tool, and I can go to line 725, and I can take a few moments to load up this, and now I can begin to work on the comparing these texts. And I can see here immediately that the word first here appears in many spellings, and I'm not interested in these many spellings. So I can remove them from the collation by clicking this button here. They all go green. Then I drop them onto here, and I save it, and I recollate, and all those different spellings of first have disappeared. So I use this tool to make a complete record of all the differences and agreements in the manuscripts, and then I can use other tools in textual communities to work on the analysis and understanding how the manuscripts relate to each other. And particularly I can use tools drawn from evolutionary biology to create a map of relations among the manuscripts. Once we have gathered all this information together, the next thing to do, of course, is to publish it. And here is a first look at a publication, our most recent publication, which is actually a second edition of Dante's Commedia that I'm working with Prue Shaw and others on at the moment. And we can see here on the right-hand side, similarly to Textual Communities, we have the full transcription, but here laid out in an attractive way without all the markup to allow people to see it and to compare it directly with the manuscript image, which of course once more is presented in IIIF form so that we can zoom in on it and we can pan around it to compare exactly what is happening in the manuscript with the image. And on the right-hand side, we can access through the transcription the collation. So if I move over the word trovar here, or if I move to this phrase here, I can see the variance at every point of the text. So I can see here that the phrase dire quale appears in different forms in different manuscripts, and I can move variant by variant, manuscript by manuscript through the collation to see exactly what's happening. Or I can look at it in this view, which allows me to see once more exactly how the manuscripts differ from each other. And in particular, I can look at what's called variant maps. And the variant maps, as I said, we use all this information to understand how the manuscripts relate to each other. So what you see on the left is a phylogenetic tree, or what we call a variant map, which is really another way of describing a codex, a stemma codicum, an old-fashioned stemma, but presented here in a very novel way, not as a tree descending from the not as a stemma so much as a map of relationships. So we see here the information that this word drita appears in this manuscript as shown here, and the other 6 manuscripts shown in red have the reading in drita. If we scroll our way down here, we come to this phrase here, dire qual a, and here we see that the red manuscript in red has ash there, and the other readings are all appearing in different colours. And with these 2 groups of manuscripts, Triv, Mart, etc., appearing in green and all agreeing on this reading. We can also see the original spelling of the manuscripts as shown here. So we can see here that some manuscripts spell die quale ra a, and others spell it with a grave accent over the e, etc. And some have die with a final e, and some without the final e. So this is how we can go all the way towards making an extremely information-rich edition with massive amounts of information about the original spellings of the manuscripts, how the manuscripts agree and disagree, what the manuscripts actually say, and we can present it to the reader with tools which actually allow the reader to explore what is happening within the text. So that is what you can do with textual communities, and everybody, if you want it, come and use it. It's free.